I will never believe that thoughts are not facts, because I've been through so much that are facts, and people just don't care as much as I thought they would. Therapists didn't, and I'm shocked how people react to a thought, and I'm like, where the hell did they get all this shit from? Like, thoughts are just thoughts. You're right. If you knew what I've been through, maybe you wouldn't say that. And it's sad how much I've been through, and some other people that don't think all of what they believe is not an opinion, but are facts, and I don't believe all of the information from books even, because now we get so many inaccuracies trying to understand stuff, like the situation with my exes. No, of course they didn't have all the facts, they didn't care, and they looked at it, oh, everything she's saying is just an opinion, which wasn't true, and I get sick of it. I get fed up. It's not justice. This won't ever be. Justice to me is different than other people, because I remember the saying in Pledge of Allegiance, with justice for all. Let's turn that around and use injustice for a sec, because children experience injustice in their childhood. Some do. And it's sad how many you can't hear that from. But there are that some kind of indicate it in a way, but they're never listened to. And it's sad when I was a child and I had a lot of injustices in my childhood that nobody cared about. And as I got older, I started to process it a whole different way than other people on purpose. And they're like, well, we shouldn't believe all of that. But I believed what I believed for a reason. And it's because I don't put up with falsehoods. I don't believe in them. I never will. Because I know there's so many facts that we don't take into account, like the Bible says. We won't take a lot of facts into account. We'll just look at the inaccuracies more than the facts. And I was like, yeah, we do that. And most people are immature enough to do that, because they don't care about one's path. They don't care about what they've been through. They don't care about the goals they had. Like, my parents definitely didn't care about any of my goals. Even when I worked, they didn't care about my goals. They didn't care I was actually working for a change. And I was like, all this is really parenting and growing up? And it's crazy how people grow up and have to live with all these thoughts they never wanted, or thoughts that somebody gave to them that they're trying to unpuzzle, I guess you could say. They're trying to make it so they understand what's inaccurate and what is not. Like in computer class, they didn't know how I operate on computers. And I'm like, well, they didn't understand how I get educated. And I had to relearn a lot of words I knew already, because people just didn't care. Oh yeah, she's mentally retarded because she's this and this. And I'm like, you don't have your facts straight. You're looking at opinions there, because kids learn over 100 words before they're 5 years old. And most of them actually learn different words. Like, if their parents sing a 10 plus word song, that's all processed, but not to where we understand it is, because the kid might not say it back. And I'm like, how stupid are we to say kids don't know anything when half the time we're throwing so many words in their face and expecting to know everyone in the same way we did. And I'm like, where's your psychology at? I don't even think you know what psychology really is, because psychology is the science or study of the mind and behavior, not just the mind, because the behavior was the old psychology meaning, and then they have the new psychology meaning, which is of the mind, because they're both related in a way. Like the movie or little documentary for Jeannie, the girl who's lived in isolation, that the parents thought, she has something, so we're gonna just keep her isolated and hope for the best, which never worked because she wasn't using all of her brain. So technically, she lacked a lot of things that they were supposed to help her avoid. And I'm like, that's not cool. Isolation can be a killer, or it could be a savior. Yeah, some don't believe isolation is the best. And there are times when it is, but not when someone's going to tell you, oh, you need to strip nude, and that's isolation. What the fuck ever. And because they're not getting therapy, they're not getting the nutrients they need to grow, to understand that it's not all bad. But if you're doing something that is bad, like re-traumatizing them again, yeah, that's a definitely no-no. And in medical, we have to be aware of no-nos, especially re-traumatizing somebody when we're not trying to. And people do that to me. I mean, there's therapists that re-traumatized me. Maybe they weren't aware because they're still in training to some degree, even though they got all their licenses or whatever. And I was in training for a water instructor and lifeguard. And it's sad how in training we get a lot of different things thrown at us, but I got lucky enough not to. So it was just a matter of being persistent with it, despite whoever was against it. Because a lot of people probably were against the fact that I was one that was trained in the family correctly in first aid and CPR. And we know one of the basics is we gotta lower the intensity, if we can, of the victim or the person to help them so we can aid them correctly. And a lot of people don't do that. They'll stress the person out more and more, even though they're talking about or not about what's traumatizing them. And sometimes they might not say anything because they're deaf or blind. And in that case, we have to be really careful because we might trigger them and not know we're triggering them. Like my ex, he thought he knew everything about my situations and he didn't. And it's like he wanted the facts so he could turn them around and make them inaccurate when they were accurate. And I'm like, people have a major problem with that today. And they need to realize that accuracy is more important than inaccuracies.